the title. We're talking about transform your mindset, rewriting your story for personal growth. To begin the conversation, if we would please, everybody comment below. I choose to think empowering thoughts. Let that be your morning affirmation or declaration as you step into this week's opportunities. I choose to think empowering thoughts. I refuse to allow my mind to be occupied by negativity. I'm not going to create any space for that type of energy. I'm choosing right now in this moment to think empowering thoughts. Now, I was having a conversation with an individual last week, and they were aiming to improve different aspects of their life professionally as well as personally. And they were aiming to transform in a number of different ways. And as I presented this concept to this individual, I also want to share with each and every single one of us because I believe many of the aspirations that this young professional had, many of us in this broadcast also share. This individual was aiming to create some level of transformation in their life. They're looking to reinvent themselves. They want to show up differently so they can create different outcomes and different results in their life. And like I laid it to this individual, we have to understand that a key to you changing any aspect of your life on a fundamental level is the belief system that you buy into. If you can change what you believe, if you can change ultimately the narrative in your mind, the story that you're telling yourself, you can create positive changes in your life. If you can begin to reframe your thought process, if you can begin to renew your mentality, if you can begin to restructure your belief system, you can position yourself to reinvent the life that you experience. I tell many leaders, family, and hear me clearly on this, okay? If you don't get anything else out of what we talk about during today's conversation, take this with you. The story that you tell yourself about yourself carries the greatest influence over your life. What you continue to repeat to yourself, you're going to start to believe. Ultimately, the words that you speak in the atmosphere of your life will begin to deeply embed themselves into what you're thinking, how you feel, and what you ultimately believe. And our beliefs are largely influencing our behavior, how we show up, in many cases, the identity that we associate ourselves with. And here's what we have to understand. In many cases, it's not a lack of abilities that's holding us back. It's not a lack of skills that's stopping us from making steps towards our goals. It's not a lack of knowledge or experience that's hindering us from reaching new levels of success in life. But what often holds us back, what often stunts our growth or prevents us from making progress is the story that you are telling yourselves. Because for so many of us, and I've been there, I know this feeling, we have this self-sabotaging narrative that's on replay in our minds. We often tell ourselves that we're not good enough to reach certain levels of success, that we're not smart enough to accomplish certain goals, that we can't gain access to certain opportunities because we don't have what it takes. We come up with reasons why we're not loved enough, why we don't feel as if we are capable of handling certain situations. And it's not that we can't handle certain situations or thrive in certain environments or even gain access to certain opportunities. But what's needed is a fundamental shift in the way that we view ourselves, the way that we communicate with ourselves, the way that we see ourselves, the belief that we have about who we are as leaders, as individuals that are aiming to level up our lives. And here's what I want us to really understand. No matter how long you have thought a certain way, you can always rewrite your story. In fact, everybody comment below that statement. I can rewrite my story. No matter how long you have thought a certain way, no matter how long your mind has been stuck in a certain situation or a certain experience, you can always make the executive decision that I'm going to rewrite my story. Historically, right, your environment may not be conducive to the vision that you have for yourself, but in any given moment, you can make a conscious decision. I'm going to stop this track right here, right now. I'm going to change the game right here, right now, and rewrite a different story. I can break some generational cycles. I can disconnect from the old and build the new. And it starts with you. renewing your mind. Now, this process isn't always easy. It's simple, but it's not always easy. It starts with you building awareness, being persistent and patient, and continuing to actively reframe your thought pattern, your belief system, and the story that you are telling yourself. As we step into this week's opportunities, here's what I want us to reflect on. What have you told yourself that you can't do? That vision, that purpose, that goal that you have set. We all have these limiting beliefs that often try to convince us that we cannot do certain things. What have you told yourself you couldn't accomplish? What have you assumed you couldn't gain access to? What's the narrative in your mind right now like? Is it truly supporting the life that you're aiming to create for yourself? Is it supporting the goals that you're aiming to achieve? Or in some cases, are you being your worst critic, your biggest enemy? All because of what you have on replay in your mind. I'm going to give us a few things to kind of consider as we step into this week. But ultimately, what I want us to learn to do is to actively change the relationship that we have with ourselves and begin to see ourselves from a different perspective, to see yourself from a different light, to see yourself from a different viewpoint. Number one that I want us to do is this: begin to monitor your thoughts. Be aware of the thoughts that you're allowing to influence you. Because in case you did not know, you get to decide which thoughts you're going to give mental consent, which thoughts you're going to mentally accept, and which thoughts you're going to release. Begin to release those thoughts that don't serve you. Begin to release those thoughts that make you feel disempowered. Begin to release those thoughts that often make you feel inferior, insignificant, or as if you're not good enough. Because you don't have to believe everything that you think. You get to consciously decide which thoughts are going to take real estate within your consciousness. So begin to do inventory of the thoughts that you're consistently thinking and have on replay in your mind, and ask yourself, is this thought supporting the goals that I'm aiming to achieve? Or is it hindering me from making progress towards the vision that I have? That's number one. Begin to monitor your thoughts. Number two is this: actively work to reframe your beliefs. Begin to look at an area in your life where you're not getting the results that you really want to experience. That's often an indication that there's a limiting belief at play in your life. There's a limiting belief that's influencing you on how you show up, how you perform, or ultimately what you're willing to raise your hand for as far as opportunities are concerned. Identify a limiting belief that's been holding you back and then actively work to reframe it. Now, in a later broadcast, we'll dive deeper into what this process looks like, but on a surface level, what you can begin to do is to create a combative statement, right? A combative statement where, say, for instance, you say, I can't do this, right? I've never done this. And you assume that you can't gain access to a certain opportunity. Reframe that statement by simply saying, okay, I may not have never done it before, but I can figure this thing out. It may be hard, it may be difficult, but just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. I'm willing to step into it and learn something new. You see how you can actively begin to reframe your consciousness to take on this growth mindset? And then the thing that you once convinced yourself you couldn't do, now you can start actively taking steps to learn how to do it. And from there, you create a brand new belief system. Because the best way to battle your inner critic or overcome that self-doubt is to do the very thing that you convinced yourself that you couldn't do. And hear me clearly on this, family. I'm speaking from personal experience. There's a special kind of strength that you start tapping into when you start doing the very things that you once convinced yourself you couldn't do. And this starts with you actively learning to reframe the beliefs that you have in your mind, right? Another great thing that you could begin to exercise, a tool that you can use, is in that area that you told yourself you couldn't do something or something that you've never done before, so to speak. Ask yourself two very simple questions. Do I believe I can't do this simply because I've never done it before? And then number two, in what ways do I need to grow, adapt, or improve in order for me to achieve the task at hand? You see the difference here? When I sit back and I say, hey, I cannot do something, as we talked about a few weeks ago, that's an unexamined assumption. And if you lead your life with just assumptions, you're never going to make any progress. But by me asking these questions, I'm not stopping at the assumption. I'm moving closer towards the goal that I'm aiming to accomplish. And I'm asking myself, have I just convinced myself I can't do it simply because I've never done it before? And then number two, how can I grow? How can I adapt? And what skills can I develop? How can I improve as an individual to achieve the task at hand? Now, I'm not operating with a fixed mindset. I'm operating with a growth mentality, and I'm seeking out ways that I can improve myself to get to where I'm aiming to be in life. This is how we actively work to reframe our belief system. That's number two. Then number three is this, and we'll take it home. It's not enough for us to just think our way into acting differently. What's most important is that we act our way into thinking differently. So as you think on new levels of success, begin to align your actions with what it is that you're aiming to experience. Now, this may require you to step outside of your comfort zone, but that's the goal, because growth is never going to take place within the corridors of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to break down the barriers of what you define to be comfortable in your life to tap into some extraordinary outcomes and results that you're aiming to create. This may mean I'm going to make some mistakes. This may mean I'm going to fall short. This may mean I'm going to experience some temporary defeat. But it's in those moments that you have to give yourself permission to make a mistake, because it's through that mistake that you get feedback from that experience. That feedback you can utilize to apply to who you are, and it's going to help you grow, improve, and develop in certain areas. And this is where the skills begin to improve. The skills begin to develop. But all of this starts and it begins with you taking action. So, as I wrap up this conversation, family, I'll end it by saying this. Today is full of great opportunities and endless possibilities. And the same is true for every single day this week. Here's what we must do. Begin to rewrite your story. For many of us, we've convinced ourselves that we can't do certain things. For many of us, we feel as if we can't gain access to certain opportunities. For many of us, we think that that vision that we have is way above our head. You can rewrite your story. You don't have to think the same way that you always thought. You have to renew your mind, and it's a process. Right? The Book of Life talks about don't conform yourself to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Don't conform to your conditions. Don't conform to your environment. Don't even conform to your past. What I need you to do is start renewing your mind. Start upgrading your mentality. Raise the frequency of your thoughts, because that's the first step to you transforming your life. To create any positive changes, it starts right here in your mind. Because family, your feet will never go any place that your mind has not been. So right now, we got to get our minds where we're aiming to go. Get your minds attached to your goals and the end result that you're aiming to experience, and then back that up with some action. But it all starts with you changing the narrative in your mind. Because again, the story that you tell yourself about yourself carries the greatest influence on your life. What you repeat to yourself, you're going to believe and become. So start repeating empowering thoughts. Start consistently affirming who you are. Start encouraging yourself and giving yourself that joy, that excitement, that passion that you need to get to your next level in life. The ball's in your court. Take advantage of this week's opportunities by you renewing your mind and changing the narrative in your head and aligning it with success. If you slid into this broadcast and I was unable to give you a shout out, be sure to comment below. And if in fact this is your first time, or maybe it's your first time in a long time, I welcome you and I want to shout you out. Be sure to put a number 1 in the chat and then place your first name afterward. Again, number 1 in the chat if you are new, and then place your first name afterward. I'm hoping that somebody somewhere found some value from this conversation and discussion. If so, put some fists in the chat below to let your boy D1 know you were picking up what I was putting down during today's conversation. Let me put this up here. There we go. And if you did find value, family, again, please share this out with the people that you do care about. There we go. It didn't work the first time I hit it. But share this out on Facebook, share it out on LinkedIn and YouTube, as well as X. Deron is in the building. My brother, salute to you. Hope all has been well with you, King. Yes, Mia, we got to renew our mind. Absolutely, Angel. I'm choosing to think empowering thoughts. There we go, Mia. Family, again, if you did find value, please share this out with the people that you do care about on all platforms. You never know how something that we mentioned and discussed during today's conversation can impact somebody that you personally do know. So if you did benefit from this conversation, please share with another person that you are connected to. Your aunt, your cousin, your uncle, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your enemies, your ops, whatever the case may be. Send it to them so they can be inspired by today's conversation. And family, if we've got to connect on other social media platforms, what are we waiting for? Connect with your boy. I'm at the number one Gibson, pretty much on all platforms, including Instagram, Facebook. X isn't up there, but I'm on there as well. Not too active on that platform, but nonetheless, we can connect there if you're on it. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn if you're on that professional network, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, that's youtube.com/David Gibson. One thing that I've been intentional about in the year of 2025 is really building our community on that platform. That's where I have all of my long-form content, short films, and documentary series available. So be sure to tap in on the YouTube channel. Again, that's youtube.com/David Gibson. Also, visit the website, elevationisAmust.com, for more information on my speaking and coaching services. And while you are there, take advantage of the online store, where you can purchase books, ebooks, and resources, all designed to help you level up your mindset, create successful habits, and ultimately become the best version of yourself. Again, that's at elevationisAmust.com. With all of that being said, family, I appreciate each and every single one of you tapping into today's conversation. Again, I'm hoping that you did find value from this broadcast. Before we wrap this thing up, I want to talk to somebody personally that may be going through a difficult season right now as you're under the sound of my voice. If you find yourself in a challenging moment where the struggle is real, your back is up against the wall, and life is tough right now in this moment, come real close to your cell phone device, your laptop, or maybe your TV screen, whatever platform or form of technology you're watching this broadcast on, and hear me clearly. I need you to understand that what you're currently experiencing, it's going to pass. This too shall pass. No storm will ever last forever. But understand, you need that rain for those flowers to grow and blossom. You can't just all have just sunshine, right? That rain has a purpose. And so does your pain. So does your struggle. So does the challenge that you currently find yourself in. Keep in mind, if your life has purpose, there's meaning in your suffering. And it's the moment that you find something positive in a difficult situation, that's when you're going to win. So to that one that may be dealing with a tough time right now, I need you to reframe your perspective and seek out the value in what you're experiencing. And most importantly, understand it's temporary. So you keep pushing, you keep pressing, you keep persisting until you succeed. You may be saying, well, D1, it sounds good. It sounds very amazing. But honestly, sir, you really do not know what I'm experiencing. You really do not know my personal story or my personal struggle in this moment. And that may be very well true. I may not know what you're currently up against. I may not know what you're currently facing. I may not even know you personally. But what I do know is this: whatever stands in front of you and whatever stands behind you has nothing compared to the power that's at work within you. What I need you to do is to stand up with that power, to move with that power, to navigate life with that power. Start moving with conviction, entering into spaces knowing that you belong there, confronting your fears, knowing that you can overcome them, going after your doubt, right, and your insecurities, and saying, I'm the one in charge now. I'm no longer going to operate with this limited perspective of who I am. I'm going to start moving with power because you carry that. It's all within you. You just got to have that conscious decision. Make that conscious decision to step up with that power. Family, if nobody else tells you that they love you today, remember, your brother from another mother, D1 Gibson, has nothing but love for each and every single one of you. With all of that being said, let's wrap this thing up again. I appreciate each and every single one of you tapping in and tuning in to today's broadcast. Share this out with the people that you do care about. And as we step into this week, I want you to be effective, be successful, live with some passion, and most importantly, 3 pounds to your chest. 1, 2, 3. Be powerful. We'll be back at it next week, 10 a.m. Monday morning. That's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, by the way. Monday morning for another broadcast. Until then, have an amazing Monday and an effective week. I'll see you all then. Peace.